Stan walked into the bar next door, where there appeared to be some kind of celebration going on. Before he could place his order, Edward shouted, "Drinks at my expense!" A loud roar of excitement rang out throughout the bar, delaying the time it took for Stan to get his drink. After a while, he approached Edward. "Thanks for the drink, buddy. Do you mind if I ask what the occasion is?" "No problem, buddy. Me and Emma. Here she is." He pulled the woman next to her by the sleeve of her blouse. "Now we can get a divorce." Emma turned around and grinned, raising her glass in greeting to confirm Edward's statement. "Wait, I don't understand something." Stan wrinkled his brow. "Usually during a divorce, either both spouses are unhappy or one of them is unhappy. Why are neither of you two sad?" "I can't hear anything over all this noise," Edward shouted, leaning towards his ear. "Let's sit at that table over there and I'll tell you everything." They walked to one of the tables at the back of the room, where it was quieter than next to the bar. The celebrating man introduced himself as Edward, and the stranger said he was Stan. Both shook hands and sat down at the table, placing their glasses on it, after which Edward spoke. "In short, Stan, here's the thing. My grandfather was a rich man. Unfortunately, he was also a very domineering and grumpy old man. Before his death, my grandfather left me a substantial inheritance, formalized in a trust, setting several conditions. 1. I had to get married before I turned 25. My grandfather believed that marriage would help me grow up. 2. The marriage itself must have lasted at least 5 years. Do you understand now?" The interlocutor winked at Stan. "When I was 22, I found Emma and made a mutually beneficial deal with her. If she marries me and stays married to me for 5 years, I give her $500,000. "Wow!" Stan clicked his tongue. "Great money. So, did you really get married?" "Well, yes, damn it, we got married, bought a house, and lived together for 5 long years. Well, now we are free like the wind." "Understand. Listen, during these 5 years, did love arise between you, or was it just sex?" "Well, the whole point is that our house was a 2-flat house. I lived on one side of a duplex 1 and had various girlfriends who lived with me for 5 years. Emma had another side where she mostly lived with her boyfriend. There were a couple of times when we were both alone, and then we had sex just like that. In fact, she's not that bad in bed." "So you inherited a lot of money and now you're paying Emma off?" Stan asked, taking a sip of beer and looking at his counterpart over the rim of the glass. "That's right, buddy." Edward smiled broadly, spreading his arms to the sides. "I don't understand how this is possible." Stan raised his eyebrow, putting his glass on the table. "What is this?" "What do you mean?" "Well, as far as I know, most of these trusts have a fraud clause." "Fraud clause?" Ed drawled. "Well, yes, something like that. If the recipient of the trust entered into a fictitious marriage in order to get his share, then the agreement becomes invalid." "Seriously?" I don't think there's such a clause in my trust." Edward frowned, somewhat deflated, his eyes darting uncertainty from side to side. "Are you sure about this?" "No. And even if there is, no one knows that we did it, except maybe her boyfriend." "What about me?" "You have nothing to do with this matter. Why would you even say anything?" "What if I'm one of your grandfather's lawyers for the disposal of the inheritance?" Stan suggested innocently. "Oh, shit. Look, I was just kidding about Emma and me. We married for love and were real husband and wife for all 5 years. I swear." The fake husband of 5 years raised his hand as if taking an oath on the Bible. "Please don't add lies to your crimes." Stan chuckled. His interlocutor on the other side of the table was clearly nervous. Cough. "Is there anything I can do to make you forget what I told you?" The heir coaxed ingratiatingly. "Just in time. I was just about to get to this. Your grandfather was a mean old man and, to be honest," Stan leaned over the table and lowered his voice, "I don't particularly like the charity group that will grab all this money if I turn you in. How about you give me half?" "Half? Nah, dude, it won't work that way. Damn it. I put up with that bitch and counted every day of the sham marriage for 5 long years. I deserve this money right down to the last cent. Edward's face turned purple with indignation at the mere thought that the money that had not yet been received had already begun to float out of his hands. Oh, okay then, look for yourself, either half or a donut hole. With these words, Stan stretched, cracked his shoulders, and stood up to leave. Wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute. Well, okay, how about 40% for you? That's great. Stan grinned. I don't like to chat in vain and bargain for a long time. Now, you need to ask the leading lawyer to prepare the payment of the inheritance in 2 sets of bitcoins, he continued matter-of-factly. One for 60% of the total amount and the other for 40. You give me, without looking, the code to access 40% of the bitcoins, and we part amicably like ships at sea. Okay, Edward squeezed out dejectedly, as if all the festive air had been let out of him. At the reading of the will, the team's lead attorney read the provisions of the trust. He solemnly declared that the grandson had fulfilled all the conditions of the will and would receive the agreed amount in bitcoins, as he had requested. Documents with a conditional account code were handed over to Edward. After completing all the formalities, Edward gave the Bitcoin account number for 40% of the amount to the lawyer, who then immediately left. The chief lawyer approached his not-too-joyful grandson. "Congratulations, guy. I hope you use this money wisely," he said, shaking Edward's hand. "Thank you," he muttered with a rather sour expression on his face. "Can I ask you one thing?" "Of course, what about?" "Who is the man sitting next to our junior paralegal?" "So, this is one of your lawyers, isn't it?" "Ours? I've never seen him before." Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.